I got these. Look,
Hello, everybody. Welcome to Paranormal Addicts Season 3, Episode 2. My guest today is my good friend, Eric. So we'll just get going here. Usually I let everybody introduce themselves, but that's actually part of my questions this time. So we'll just get going with the questions. So the first question is, for those who may not know you yet, tell everybody who Eric is outside of the paranormal.
uh, outside of the paranormal, I'm a father. I have three beautiful children, a beautiful girlfriend that I will be hopefully making my wife someday. I enjoy all things from sports to spending time with family. Uh, and I work in construction for AutoZone. I senior project manager, and I basically work and build on all the 13 of the DCs that they have in the U.S.
All right, and that puts us into the next question. You balance a demanding career as a senior project manager with investigating the paranormal. How do those two worlds intersect for you?
Uh, Really, it's basically, it's quite easy, from going from one to the other because they're two different worlds, right? But at the same time, it's a passion. Both of them are passions, and I think that's the thing that works out for it is uh, it didn't matter where I'm working. I'm gonna be a project manager in construction, and then when it comes to the paranormal, it's something I've always loved doing. So they're both passions of mine.
All right, and the final question in the getting to know Eric section. Okay, do you think your construction background influences how you approach investigations, structures, or documentation?
Oh, of course. So when I go to a new job location that I don't know who I'm dealing with, I'm going to treat them with the utmost respect from, being in my role. I walk in the door and the people there, they automatically think, oh, the boss is here. No, that's not how I work. I come in, the guy pushing pushing the broom is just as good to me as the person who's the CEO of the company. I'm going to treat him with respect. The same thing when I do when I go to a location. I'm going to treat everyone because I don't know them. I'm going to treat them with respect. And when I come into an investigation, trying to understand things that we can't understand, I'm going to come in with the utmost respect with them.
Yeah, and I think that's for the people out there that don't know this. Me and you are good. We're good friends. We're you know
Correct.
we're yeah we're family. Might as well say. And but I think that's one of the reasons we clicked from the beginning is because we both approach the investigation like that. We respect the location. We respect the people, the living, the non-living, everything. And so I think that's one of the reasons we click so easily. So all right. So now we'll get into the paranormal journey. Uh, you 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 shared that your paranormal journey began at age 16 after your grandfather passed. Can you
Correct.
walk us through that a little bit?
Yeah. So actually, at the time I was living in Texas, my grandfather passed away. Uh, I had the opportunity to fly to back to Tennessee, where I'm from, and go to the funeral. I had a 2 week pretty much uh, getaway, if that makes sense, to be there with my grandma. And I called her Mama. I call my grandpa Papa. Being from the South, that's what we called him. And yeah, he died pretty sudden. Actually, he had cancer, but he died pretty sudden. He had hospice at the house, so he died there at the house. We had his funeral on a Saturday, and I didn't have to leave till not the next day Sunday, but the following Sunday. So I told my mama, hey, I'm here all week. I'll do whatever you need me to do. I'll help out, whatever we need to do. So we actually went that week. We spent some time together with the family. Went did some shopping with her, spent the week with her. To be honest with you, I didn't stay in that house. So I didn't know. Now, that was a house I stayed in a lot when I was a kid, no issues. But the following Saturday, I came back and I had asked my mama, I said, what do you want me, what can I do for you? I'm leaving tomorrow. And she had told me, you know, cutting the grass would help. We're talking middle of June, right? So I went outside. I fired up the lawnmower, and the way their house sits, it sits on a hill. So I'm coming up the hill, and as I come up the hill, I had the old, if you remember the old iPod Nano. It's like an iPod Nano. I was listening to music, and I come up the hill, and as I come up the hill, I look up to their front porch, and almost plain as day, I see something standing there, and I look twice. I look down, look up again, and wearing overalls, just like my grandpa would. And he was act like he was like about to light a pipe. That's what he would do. He would stand outside in the morning, light a pipe. I listen. It was my first experience. I let go of the lawnmower. They had like the handles that you're pushing, and I ran around the back side of the house, scared because they were. I ran back porch screaming, "Mama, Mama," something, and then I was white as a ghost. And she's like, "What's going on?" And she's like, "What's going on?" And I said, "You ain't gonna ever believe me." And she already knew on her face. I said, "I just think I saw my Pepaw." And she's like, "Yeah, he's been here ever since he left a week ago." Like, like it was nothing. Like she had already known that he was still there. And so at that moment, I was like, "What is this?" And so it kind of like intrigued me to turn into a full blown, hey, this is what I'm gonna do. This is what I like to do.
Yeah,
Just like Anthony, one of our guys from our team.
yeah. He says, "Hey, yeah, yeah, yeah." And that's similar to my story, as you know, we've discussed that before. I mean, I was a little bit younger, but same basic story there. Um, so, um, so you described those early dreams as comforting. How do you how did they differ from what people often expect paranormal dreams to be?
Uh, you cut out. I didn't know if it was my side or the internet cut out where I didn't hear that whole question.
I think it was the internet. So the question is, you described your early dreams as comforting. How did that
Mhm.
differ from what most people often expect when they hear paranormal dreams?
So dreams are crazy, right? I've had a couple things in my life that have affected my dreams. One of them that people don't know is, believe it or not, and I don't even know if my girlfriend knows, is that I was actually hypnotized. And I know people might not believe this, but as a young age, so my brother was mauled and attacked by a Rottweiler right in front of me when I was in second grade. So he had over 500 stitches in his head. This is a story that's going to play into to my life. So I was having real bad nightmares after that happened. I'd have the constant same dream every night of him being mauled. He would have the same dream too once he got out of recovery. So we actually went to a hypnotist. We went to a therapy session. We went to a hypnotist, and they basically tried to teach us how to have vivid dreams, how to be in control of our dreams. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I'm with you.
So when things bad would happen, I was able to be in control, and I that has stuck with me my whole life. How that plays into the paranormal side of things is it almost opened an eye that I didn't know I had. Does that make sense? Like so, there's things in my life that I have now intertwined with that I can make decisions on, and or I think of things. I'm sure we all have that intuition thought, right? You can sit here and you can say something, and then 5 seconds later it happens, or you can think of things and it happens. I think everybody has that. They just have to get into it. The crazy part about my grandpa's situation was, and this is not something not a lot of people know, me and him did not get along growing up. Me and my brother would go see my grandpa, and he would basically take him with him, to places and leave me behind. He never wanted me around. But so after that happened, something crazy happened. I started having these dreams with my grandpa, and the one I had that was the most intriguing dream was about 2 years later. The dream I had was I was going through a lot. I was homeless. I was going through a lot of stuff. Right. I was going through some court stuff, and I was just not having a good time. I had this dream that we are all sitting on this long table. And at the table, basically the whole family's sitting there. And he's at the end of the table at the head, and they're praying over the food. And I'm looking around like, who's here? And I look around and I see him, and he's staring right at me, piercing through my soul. And I'm thinking, oh, I'm gonna get in trouble. And he did this Father, Son, and Holy Spirit thing with his hand, and he was Catholic. He did that, And when he did that, I felt like this sense of ease come over me, that maybe I was looking too much into it. Maybe that he was trying to teach me a lesson as a kid more than not liking me. And ever since
Right.
then, I feel like it's crazy. I feel like he's just been with me. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So that's
Yeah.
that's what did
Yeah.
me.
Yeah. I definitely get that because as we've discussed a lot, and I don't think I've even shared really on the podcast that much. So when my abilities, my gift, when it first came to me, it came to me as dreams. That was how
Mhm.
and I've expanded since then. But that's so yeah. I think dreams are really an overlooked aspect of the paranormal field. I think people try to
100%.
yeah. So all right, seeing a full body apparition of your grandfather is something many investigators never experience. You've kind of already answered this, so but we'll ask it anyway. Something that many investigators never experienced. How did that moment change your understanding of death and the afterlife?
Right. So prior to that, I think the first show I ever watched on A&E or Travel Channel, whatever, was Ghost Hunters. I think that came out before the Adventures and everything else. And I started watching Taps, and what got me, um, I watched a couple episodes, and then that situation happened. After that happened, I knew I never knew that would happen to me, right? Like there's things in your life that you're just like, why did this happen? Why is this happening? And what can I do? Well, I've learned there's nothing you can do. You just gotta, you can't what I've lived by really is you can't control what happens to you. You can only control how you respond. So when that day that happened, I just made sure for the rest of my life that's what I'm going to be into because this would intrigue me the most.
Okay. So looking back now, do you think that experience was meant to guide you, comfort you, or simply open a door?
All three. I mean, it's guided me from then. I think you feel the same way about your experience. It's pretty much all three of those open doors guided me to where I go. You know, I also it opens your eyes to the point to where when you make a decision, you make sure you think about every aspect or every outcome because of the way you've basically been raised dealing with that stuff.
Right, right. Yeah, and I think the important thing is, and you just said it. It makes you more aware, so that makes you more open to it. So that's where the open door comes. It's kind of like to me, and I'm sure you agree with this. Once that door is open, you can't really close it.
Right.
It makes you want more. You want to know more. You want so yeah, and I know you agree with that. We've talked about it. So yeah. So all right. So you identify as an empath and sensitive to energy, but not a medium. How
Correct.
do you how do you explain that distinction to people?
Okay. So, we've all sit here and we see the mediums that you see on TV, right? You see the Patty Negris, you see the uh, Tessa Groff. You see the people who are clairvoyants, the people who can see things or they can sense them. People who are not there, or, they can draw or they can do whatever they can. I don't have those abilities, right? I don't have that. What I do have is I can sit in the room with you for 5 minutes, and we can have a conversation, and I can feel every energy that you pose off you, your aura, your core sense of energy, and I can do that to anybody, right? Or I can go in a place with a whole bunch of people, and I get this huge, overwhelming feel where I feel like I just got into a big old fight. And I don't know, I'm sure we've all been in fights. After the fight, you get that sense of drained, that sense of adrenaline gone, and that's what that happens to me all the time. So like, I tend not to want to be in those larger crowds. I tend not to want to do that. So that's the sensitivity that I have to it. And I think the difference, it's like, they say, oh, you can open up your eye even more and you can do this and do that. I don't know if I want that. If I do have that ability, I'm okay with what I have now. I'm okay with being an empath. I'm okay with listening to people's energy and being sensitive to that, and then leave it at that, right? Because there's some doors that shouldn't be open, I feel, and there's some doors that you can let them open, but it's a revolving door and you don't want to get back into a position. So that's a personal feeling for me, if that makes sense.
Well, I have the ability. I don't consider myself a medium either, and I never will. I tend to classify more as a clairvoyant, I guess, because I do have the ability, as we know, I have the ability to see them and even communicate with them. Uh,
Right.
and that's not necessarily I look at it as a gift now. We know that, but that's not necessarily something I wanted.
Mhm.
and sometimes I still don't want it, but since I've learned to use it, I like having it. But yeah, I definitely understand saying that being an empath is enough. I mean, especially 6 year old me when I first had my first experience, I definitely did not want it. So yeah, I definitely feel that. So uh, how does being sensitive to energy affect you during investigations, both positively and negatively?
Um, that's the hugest part of it, right? The problem though is the downfall is sometimes, spirit's gonna use their energy to the positives and negative or not at all. And that's where like my feelings come like to be completely honest with you. Last year, me, you, and another group, I think AZ Pie, we went to Waverly, right? And the whole time we was in Waverly, brother, I felt nothing. I'd go into different rooms and know, and I learned something. I posted something on my Facebook about this, and I said something, and someone, I can't remember who it was, said, "Hey, listen, just because you didn't feel it doesn't mean it's not there." And I'm like, well, you know what? And I try to be strong with my own opinion, say, you know what? I'm an empath. I feel energy. But you know what? I also have to be receptive to people's own actions and their own energy. Just because I feel it doesn't mean what if they didn't want me to feel it? What if they didn't want to touch me? What if they didn't want me to know they were there? So like, but I could walk in rooms and that hair standing up, that feel, the electric feel. We get that, right? We know that there's something there. We know that there's that there. We know. See, that's the thing. If you remember, we were at the Glen House this past weekend, and I don't know if you I don't actually know it. I think Anthony was there. I don't know if he was in there with us. Well, we were in the nursery room and I thought I saw a shadow outside, like move from side to side, and I went to walk
You told
out.
me I wasn't there. Yeah.
Yeah, and I couldn't get through the door. I couldn't get through the door. It was more of a, "Hey, you're not supposed to be here. Hey, you're not walking out this door." And eventually I was able to. But see, that's a feeling that came. We didn't see it. We didn't, that feeling, but it came. So like that's how I use that in my advantage and disadvantage. So I think that there's just so much that we don't know about the paranormal that we are intrigued about that like why didn't we hear anything at Waverly when Waverly is supposed to be a top 10 most haunted place in the
Right.
world, right? And then like we might go in there and not feel it, and then the next person who's considered not an empath gets their hair pulled. We don't know. See, yeah, Anthony's saying it was crazy because I said, Anthony, come here. He came out, he felt it. We both felt it.
Well,
And
that's kind of
so,
like, yeah, and just echoing what you said, when we was at Waverly, I didn't have much happen, and I have the connection there that I had a family member, so you would think that but I didn't have. I had a little bit in the electric shock therapy room,
right.
and then like you said, the Glen House when I was in the what I call Garrett's room, the riverboat room, whatever you want to call it. I saw that shadow walk by,
Hmm.
yeah, just out of the corner of my eyes, and then the wireless tripwire went off. So
Right, right, right.
that was my big moment from this weekend. So
Yeah.
yeah, yeah. We probably had some energy drains this weekend, but we won't go into that.
Yeah.
Uh, uh, so have there been moments where that sensitivity confirmed where equipment was showing, or has there been times when it's contradicted it?
Oh yeah. So the confirmation was just to give you an example. When me and you went to the Glen House last year, we both felt something very strong in the room with us. The REM pod starts going off like crazy, and then I think you got called cute by the lady by Sarah.
Yeah, yeah,
And,
yeah,
and we were
yeah.
like, I was like, hey, there's a lady here. Before it happened, remember, it's on tape. I was like, hey, there's a lady here, and she's like just watching us. And then you said, hey, can you touch the REM pod? It gets touched, and then the word cute comes through, and I said, do you think he's cute? And then it says yes or something like that. And
Yep.
I was like, yeah, she's here. So like that's what I thought that was a pretty cool experience.
It was, and for a little bit of background for the people watching. So on that investigation, I approached it a little bit different. I decided to carry Sarah Sally's picture with us,
The whole
and
time, the whole investigation
yep. So that was cool.
is a little stalkerish. I'm just kidding.
So you're known for having a grounded, thoughtful approach. What does doing it the right way mean to you?
Well, here's the thing. I learned something new. Okay. The right way is the right way, right? So I found out I booked a whole bunch of stuff for our tour this year. And one of the things I didn't know is I booked the old the old South Pittsburgh hospital, right? And I found out, I think through you or somebody, that stated, hey, you can't go live there. And if you want to submit film, you have to get submit to them first for approval. And there's a waiver you have to sign, because, and there's names I'm not going to name, but some people out there saying, oh, there's demons here, there's stuff here.
The
And to me,
Spice Girls or the Paranormal Film.
yeah, I'm going to be grounded, right? And the reason why I'm going to be grounded with it is because we don't really know what it is. Just because something decides to tell you to leave or get out or runs towards you does not make it a demon, right? It does not make it a demon. I just can't say that enough. Eh, Obviously, we believe. I mean, I believe in heaven and hell. I believe in God. I believe in all that. I have dabbled into demonology. I have done all this stuff as a full blown believer in God. Okay, I do believe that there's demons, but I don't believe there's one in every single place that has a negative energy at it. So not saying there isn't one there. My goal is to find out this year when we go, but I'm not
We'll
going to
find
say
out.
that. I'm not going to say there's a demon for views. That's all I'm going to say.
Right. So I echo all that. I mean, we already know this, like I said, yeah, and I'm sure everybody's already figured this out by our conversation. We're friends. We're really good friends. We talk almost every day, if not every day. So yeah, and, my background is the same. I consider myself a Christian, whatever. I studied demonology. I studied under Bishop Long. The old Catholic Church.
Yeah.
I got 2 degrees in theology. I'm an educated person. And so obviously, I'm not going to stay here and say there's no such thing as a demon. Why would I study it if there was no such thing? But it's the minority. What you usually run into is a malicious spirit. And this is how I define a malicious spirit. I'll give my definition, then you give your definition. So my definition of a malicious spirit is, if you were a dickhead when you were alive, you're going to be a dickhead when you're dead. That's a malicious spirit.
Yeah. One thing that I will say is, and it keeps intriguing me, is not knowing what is out there, the unknown. We can go to a house. I've seen it in my own eyes. I went somewhere 2 years ago that had a creeper, right? And it was not of this world. Okay. What I saw with my own eyes going up the corner of a wall was a blob, but we got it on film and it looks like arms are going out like this out of that blob. Okay. Here's the question. What is that? Is it a human? I don't think so. But at the same time, is that from the pits of hell? I don't know. It's an entity that we can't describe. We can say what it looks like, but we don't know where it came from, right? And so to me, it's like that's what keeps me going too in the paranormal, is not understanding and wanting to understand, if that makes sense.
Oh, I'm with you. Exactly. I'm with you. So I had an interesting interaction at work today. So obviously everybody knows paranormal is what I do. It's kind of hard for me to hide that. Let's be honest. So I was talking with the girl next to me, and uh, I t- we was talking about Ashbury Cemetery there, and she's like, "Well, I got another one for you to investigate. It's the church that she grew up in. It's no longer." They no longer have church there, but the building's still there, and the cemetery dates back to 1900 whatever. And there's legends to this church that was passed down from her great grandfather, who was a deacon, about like some kind of non-human spirits coming to collect one of the guys at a funeral. So that's a place that I want to check out. I can't say what it was because I haven't investigated it yet, but it's got me intrigued. It's something I don't know. So.
Yeah. And I will say this, and this is a personal thing, right? It's nothing against you or Memphis Ghost Hunters, who owns, he talks about, we've talked, me and him talked, and he has a cemetery. But one of the things that I lived by since a long time ago is and I know I see a lot of videos, right? And I don't want to say this the wrong way. I'm okay with, different people going to cemeteries. That's fine. One of the things I don't like to do is go to cemeteries for one very reason, is that they're at peace to me. They're at rest. Are they at rest? We don't know. We want to think they're at rest because they're in the ground and it says rest in peace, whatever the case may be. So if it's something like Civil Warish or something like that, or unmarked graves, that's different for me, because I want to be able to help, where I can. But like going to Joe Joe Schmoes that died in 1995, from a car wreck, to me it's like, what am I really trying to accomplish at that situation, and what am I doing to help? Is it helping or is it hurting, right?
Right.
Just to give you an example, like, this is not investigated related. This is my best friend passed away 2 years ago with an overdose. I have a song that I dedicated to. Now it's not my song. I listen to it, right? And it's something that when it plays, it's like the song that I relate. Hey, this is him coming to me. Does that make sense? And
with you.
I have Pandora on. I'm not even on that artist is pay, his channel. I'm listening to, I think I had it like on Jelly Roll or something. And the song, as soon as I pull up, and my girlfriend's in the vehicle with me, so she can tell that this is a true statement. I did not hear the song probably for 3 weeks of every day listening to that station. I pull up to his grave to say, hey, hey, how you doing? I miss you, whatever, give my love to
Respect.
him. Yeah, exactly. And the song turns on, right? Crazy. And not only does it turn on, it's like I can just feel like I felt him. He was there. You know what I mean? So I know
Right.
that going to cemeteries, I know that you're gonna see souls and spirits and stuff like that. But I also know that that's their body. To me, it's like if you are like me, we know that when we die, our body goes either to the ground or gets cremated, but our energy core is still somewhere. It's either
Yeah, right.
you know either go up, go down, stay. We don't know. So when I go there and I start feeling people and hearing people at cemeteries, it's like, why is their energy still there? So I start asking those questions, right? And to me, it's like, can they go there and then go somewhere else and then come back? I don't know, but I want to know, but I don't want to disrespect. Just because if I'm there for one person doesn't mean the person next to that person wants me there. So like I don't want to disrespect people. So I will go to cemeteries, but I just don't strive myself to be at those, if that makes sense, any sense at all.
So once again, believe it or not, we're on the same page there.
Okay.
I am not. I am not a cemetery person. Uh, I have people on my team that they think cemeteries are the greatest lengths of sliced bread. So to me, I'm kind of along the same lines with you. So to me, a cemetery, nobody lived there, nobody died there. So why would they choose to be there? So, but if they are there, so this was explained to me by somebody, and I'm not going to mention the name because it's not important. But my original stance was there's no reason for them to be there, and they're like, but sometimes they are, and when they are there, that's because that family member or somebody brought them there.
I was about to
So
say that maybe they came
yeah,
with you. That's what I'm saying.
yeah,
Like,
yeah,
maybe
yeah,
he
yeah,
came with
yeah,
me.
yeah. And just like you said, if they are there, that's their peaceful place. So I
Mhm.
don't want to disrespect that. But like you said, there are exceptions. Like we talked about Camp Boulevard up here by me. It was a Civil War basic training camp before it became a cemetery. 5,000 soldiers died there. So that's to me that's
That's
different.
different.
But like
Yep.
but like the cemetery of there's a cemetery right across from my house, as you know. To me, I would go there just to say, hey, that's disrespectful to me. So yeah, again, we're on the same page there. So
One thing that kind of intrigues me, you said you live across the street from a cemetery. We've seen the Travel Channel. I just I don't like the name drop, TV shows, but they'll say that there's a cemetery across the street, like house calls, if that makes sense. And that, why is my house haunted? I know no one's died here. So the question I have for you is, since you live across the street from a cemetery, have you had any kind of paranormal experiences? Now, obviously, I know you go to a whole bunch of different places. Things can come home or whatever. We both been there before, so we know how that is. But outside of that, have you had like experiences that can relate, make your mind think, hey, that might be from across the street?
yeah, I have. So I mean, my duplex, whatever here, is not that old, but be right. I think a combination of being right from the across the cemetery and my energy. Sometimes I have things trying to get my attention to put it.
Yeah,
Yeah. So yeah.
yeah. I was just wondering because that's a crazy question. I've never lived, by a cemetery, so I never had that experience.
So okay. Let me find my question. So, how important is discernment in the field that often is often driven by hype and assumptions?
Say it again.
How important is discernment in the field that often is often driven by hype and assumptions?
So this is something that me and you talked about, kind of. We touched on it, but to me, it's like if you go into every single situation that you're into as, hey, there's an explanation for why this is happening first, you can probably debunk 90% of the things that happen, right? So I'm going to be very, very not just discerned, but concerned about everything that's happens, right? If you're in a place and we're hearing, I think we were when we were at the Glen House, we were in the carriage house outside. We heard some girls talking. We're thinking, okay, is that a disembodied voice, or is that the hotel that's behind and there's people talking over there, right? So we start trying to think of that situation, and when we do, we always have to go in with an open mind that this might not be paranormal. This might be normal, or this might be something that's not normal, but it's not doesn't mean it's paranormal. I mean, not everything is paranormal. We I've seen a lot of people just jump straight to like, oh, that's such and such, or that's this and that. No, that's your furnace turning on. That's that noise you're hearing. You know what I mean? Like so when you go in with an open mind saying, "Hey, there is a 10% chance this could be, especially in a place that's a noted haunted place," but 90% of the time, is it? Probably not. But it's something that we want to find out and understand. So what do? You do your research. You do your investigations. You do. It's basically like a scientific situation, right? You're going to experiment. You're going to try to figure out what that was. So
Right.
that's how I deal with that. I did see
Yeah,
Anthony say something, but I didn't get to read what it said.
yeah, he was. I'll bring it back up there. He
Okay.
was going back. He was going back to us talking about cemeteries, and he said that he's done two of them. One was a cemetery of freed slaves, and the second one was a cemetery next to the Clown Motel, which dated back to the 1890s and the mining tragedy that happened. So that's different. Those are
Yeah, those
circumstances.
are different those are different
Yeah,
situations.
yeah,
Yeah, and I
yeah,
think the
yeah.
one about the Clown Motel actually relates to what happens at the Clown Motel, right? Because I mean, obviously everybody's seen the GA Clown Motel episode where they're across the street, they see the cloaked people, and then they come back over and they see things happen. So I mean, those are different situations, and I know Anthony has some crazy stories.
He
Uh,
does.
he,
I mean,
he
yeah, I just talked to him, what, 30 minutes while we was waiting for him to unlock the door. And yeah, some of the stories he had was amazing. I can't wait to investigate with him more this year, but we're not going to talk too much about that because we're going to talk about the Dark Shadows Trail later on in this. So
okay, okay,
we don't want to skip ahead too much. You know what I'm saying? So
yeah, yeah, yeah.
what what's something you see newer investigators misunderstand or rush into?
Man, I don't want to upset some people, but I'll tell you this. I lived in Denton, Texas for 17 years. And within those 17 years, I probably did 30 times at the infamous Goatman's Bridge. Everybody knows about this place, this location, uh, the location where the word Steve is on the bottom, and it's supposed to be the evil spirit and people getting thrown, this and that. I have stayed the night there solo. I've been there solo. I've gone through the woods by myself. I've gone through the woods with other people. I'll tell you this. And crazy thing is, as soon as it hyped up when it was on a certain show, and then it went to another show, and then it went to another YouTube show, every single one of them had crazy, crazy experiences where someone was scratched. Now, listen, like I said, energy sometimes does not go to you; it can go to them. But if you're there 30 times and you get none of that stuff, there's something going on, right? So, like when these newer shows come in, now here's the question I feel about it: Are they doing it for clout? Are they doing it for their views, or are they being serious and doing what we're doing, and that's being grounded and saying, hey, because like the Glenn stuff, I'm creating my video right now. I barely have anything that happened to us, but guess what? I'm still gonna put the episode out because we spent our time there and we did what we were supposed to do. So I think personally, the only advice I have for people is be real with yourself. Do things the right way, and everything else should fall in place. Just because you want 5 extra viewers, you don't have to. Now, listen, mind, get it. I'm not saying that a guy didn't get thrown 20 feet. I'm not saying that they didn't have. All I'm saying is I've been there over 30 times in a 15-year span. That's before the so-called people started doing seances, and that's after the people did seances or brought evil spirits or wrote Steve in spray paint on the wall. I didn't get any of that. Did I get orbs and pictures? Absolutely. Did I get that weird feeling every once in a while? Absolutely. But nothing evil. So that's why I'm saying, like, I just want people to literally take when you go to a location, just have an open mind that just because you're there doesn't mean it's a demon. Just like your books, I haven't read it yet, but your book, doesn't mean it's a demon. Just go in there with an open mind and try to figure it out for yourself. That's the advice I have for them.
So I'm going to quote my book here: "Don't buy generic batteries. It is probably not a demon."
Right. Correct. See, I had to put that in there so you can plug. I had to put that in there so you can plug your book. That's what that was. I was letting you plug your book there.
Available on Amazon Monday.
There you go. Monday. That's awesome. That's right after the storm for everybody. We're all. It would have been nice to have been today. That way we could have read the book over the weekend while we're stuck not with no power.
So yeah, so I mean I pretty well agree with that. I mean you know me, I like to collaborate with pretty much anybody. The only thing I ask is don't fake anything and don't provoke. And the thing with provoking, there are some spirits that you have to be aggressive with. So provoking is about intent. You know, so that's the key. What people have to understand. So if you're yelling at something just to be yelling, that's provoking. And here's how I explain why I don't why why I don't allow provoking as part of Canteen Paranormal. So I wouldn't come to your house and yell at you and expect a positive response. So why would I do that to a spirit? You know what I'm saying?
And who doesn't want you there to begin with, for the most
Right.
part?
Yeah. Yeah.
You
We're
know.
trespassing on their place. Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
And the way I feel about that is this, right? If I'm just gonna throw out something that I saw, this year we're gonna be going to the Hinsdale house, and we'll talk about that later. But that's not part of the tour, so I'm bringing it up. We'll be going to the Hinsdale house towards the end of the year. I watched a certain paranormal YouTube video with the twins, and they were provoking. And it's like, if you know for a fact that there's a crawler or some kind of evil thing there, you don't have to provoke. It's gonna come. You just gotta wait, right? And if you go one time and you don't feel it, book another day. And that's what we do here, right? There's a reason why you've been to the Glen House, what, 6 times, 5 times now? It's because, and guess what? You've had a different experience every single time. So just because you got something on the first time doesn't mean it's going to happen. Just because you got nothing this time doesn't mean it's not going to happen. I was talking this with Chelsea, my girlfriend, about the Waverly. We didn't get that feeling, but that doesn't mean I'm not going to go back. We'll go back. The atmosphere, the energy, one of the best ones you're going to ever feel when you go there. How big it is, the open, different floors, the different history. Um, who knows? Next time we go, I might get slapped across the face. I don't know. But what I will say is that you don't have to provoke it. If it wants you to know it's there, you're going to know it's there. It's going to tell you.
Yeah.
It's going to let you know.
And if it's a malicious or demonic and it wants you to know and it wants you to know it's there, you'll definitely know it's there. So I want to do I would like to do Waverly in 2027 because we got so much going on in 20 and I would like to go just like a small group, just like you three and maybe two or three of me. I think we had it's big enough you can have however many people you want to, but
Yeah,
I think spirits react better with smaller groups. You know what I'm saying?
agreed. Um,
Anthony says, "Don't get me started on the twins." Perfect example of entertainment. All right, so you've heard me say this. I don't think Anthony's heard me say this yet, and most of my viewers have heard me say this. So to me, most of what we see on TV and YouTube, that's para pop culture. That's not really paranormal investigating. That's para pop culture. That's for entertainment. So yeah, and that's just like the ones that we were talking about at Old South Pittsburgh. And I'm not going to mention the names because it's not worth it. But my nickname for them, and you're going to agree with me, this is perfect for me. My nickname for them is the Spice Girls of the paranormal field. Why are they the Spice Girls? Because they're just about entertainment. They're just about getting fans. They're not about quality. They're about substance. They're about fans. They're about entertainment. So they're the
But they
Spice
market
Girls of the
and I'm all for people selling merch, right? Anything that's going to help you, because what we do cost, right? When we go to places, nothing's free, right? Unless you get sponsored to do this and that. So if you sell merch or you do that, that's fine. But when you're steadily promoting that market, that brand, that's totally fine. But that's when that's all you're about is you're marketing your brand, you're not really there for the right reasons of why you choose to be there. Now, mind you, I'm never going to hate on anyone. I'm never going to say anything. I'm still going to watch because I want to learn new tactics, right? Just like I've saw this new way of doing SS methods. I've learned new ways of how to do things, and so and I'm going to utilize those methods. Now, is it going to work? I don't know, but I'm going to use them. So I will say that, and so and when I'm tell you something, I'm not going to say who. I have a bunch of subscriptions on my YouTube Premium, and I watch every single day before we go to bed. Chelsea probably hates me because of it, but I watch it religiously almost, just because it's not just about, hey, I want to be like those guys, but it's more about, hey, two things, right? Hey, I might go to that location. I want to know the history on it. That way, if I have to say it in my videos, the history. Two is, um, okay, they're doing something that's kind of like not working. So why would I do that, right? So or hey, they're doing something that's working, and they're, I'm gonna use that. Just like, I started putting my K2 in my REM pod, or my, multiple things. If you get two or three items in the same location and all three are going off at the same time, that helps, because sometimes people can say, well, you just had your REM pod over there and the temperature is going off. Maybe it just got hot, or hey, you got your K2 meter going off, that thing malfunctions like crazy. But if I have my REM pod right next to my K2, the K2 shooting up to red and the REM pod's going off at the same time, you know, that's a little bit more that I feel like, hey, something's happening here, that
Uh,
that
uh,
I can't explain
well, that's just like, and then I'm going to get on to the next question before we could talk this subject forever. Let's be honest,
forever.
but that's just like, I always use my Paratech and my Apple box together.
Mhm.
Because like you said, ITC. People can say whatever they want to about ITC, whether it's the Ovilus, whether it's the Paratech, whether it's the Portrait Script. There's going to be haters and there's going to be believers, whatever. But if you have your ITC and then you have your yes no and the answers, then maybe you have something. Yeah.
Well, just to briefly touch on that, when we were in the carriage house, Anthony had his people. There's a lot of people out there who are completely against the apps on the phone, right? And just because it can manipulate. But to me, I feel like the apps on the phone. I have an Office 5. It was spitting out the same stuff, like not the same words, but like just a bunch of words. One thing that I will say that I we caught was, we have it on film too. Is Anthony's by the doorway. I'm sitting in the chair, and I haven't even showed you this footage. I'm sitting down, and literally this is what happens. I get an itch on my head, right? I start scratching my head. As soon as I get that, my Oculus says the word head. His spirit talker says the word scratch as I'm scratching my head. So it's
That's
like what is that, right? And that was relating to what was happening in the moment. Two different devices, 5 feet from each other. So it's like, okay, so is
yeah.
that just the atmosphere seeing that I'm scratching and it's creating these words, or is that an actual, spirit saying, hey, I recognize you. I see you're scratching your head, and the word head popped off on my obvious, and the word scratch popped off on his spirit talker. So it's like, and it was all literally within like bang, bang, bang. You know what I mean? And it's like, what is that, right? And that's what gets me
Right.
very, very intrigued, because throughout the whole night, to me, that was the most. Even though I thought I saw a shadow and there was that energy, and I couldn't get through the doorway, to me, like seeing those two devices co-play like that when I'm doing something, it's like that gives me more intrigue into what I'm doing, right? And
Right.
it helps me want to use my equipment more.
Right. Right.
Yep.
So yeah, I know I said we was going to move on to this, but I got to add this because you mentioned, because we went into the app thing. I should have known as having these questions wasn't going to work for us. But anyway, so here's my stance on apps. So first of all, this is my general thing, and then I'll explain a little bit more. So what people have to understand, your phones nowadays are basically mini computers. So why couldn't they be useful? There's some things a phone app can never do. A phone app cannot be a EMF reader because it puts off too much heat on its own. So that it can't do. Spirit Talker, I've seen it in use. I've seen it be effective. So yeah, it's like any other piece of equipment. Learn how it works, learn its positives, learn the negatives, and keep using it if it works for you. There's no rule book to the paranormal. Besides, don't fake.
Yeah, well, and that's the thing too. Like, so people automatically think, hey, it's saying words that are random. Like, it would say something like "I died here," and then the next minute it would say horse, apple, seed. And then, but it's no different than an ovulus. My ovulus might say some weird stuff like gold, Jesus, something else, and then it's like, okay, that is relating nothing to what we're going on, but we don't know. It's spitting out these words, but that might be something they're trying to relate to us, and they say something, and these are the words that it's picking up. We don't really. That's just what intrigues us as investigators is, why is this coming out? What can I do about it? And try to get to the answer. So let's move on. Sorry, we spent
All
a
right,
little
so,
bit of time on
yeah, that's fine. So we're gonna move on to demonology now. and misconceptions. Demonology and misconceptions. So, demonology is an area you study. Why do you think people are so quick to label an experience as a demon?
because they don't understand what's happening to them. Um, and their only, their only common thing is I've had so many people come to me and say, "Hey, if you have a ghost talking to you, it's not a ghost. It's a demon that's a demon out there that's portraying to be the ghost that you're talking to, or whatever the case may be." Um, let me tell you something. You go into uh, Jim Bob's house because Jim Bob died. You think he's there? There's not a demon in there. I mean, there might be one, but typically there's not a demon in there that's going to say, "Hey, I'm going to choose you because you're hunting ghosts." You know, it's the same thing when it comes to the ladies in white, the ladies in blue, the '80s time period when the house was built in 1994. It's just we don't know the answers to this, right? That we're just trying to figure these things out. But when it comes to demons, there's two things that I live by when it comes to demons. One, I don't want to mess with them if it's really a demon. We don't. That's one thing. Like learning
I'm
intro to
trained and I don't
demonology.
want to.
No, 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 no. Like intro to demonology, I studied that. I studied a whole bunch of stuff, a whole bunch of videos. One thing is you don't want to deal with them because they're so smooth and conniving of what they do. Like they can betray, like just like they do. Like this year we'll be going to the Sally house. We don't know if it's Sally or if it's a demon. We don't know. But I tell you one thing I will do is I'm going to protect myself. I'm going to make sure that when I get there and when I leave, I'm going to make sure I'm in a position to say, "Hey, if this was a demon, that I'm protected, right? And that you're protected or Chelsea's protected." But what I will say is this: if a demon wants you, it's going to get you. It does not matter about any kind of. We can say, "Hey, God protect us, this and that." But if that was the case, then why do we still have exorcisms? Because I guarantee you they tried to say, "God help me, God help me, God help me," and they still had to be exercised. Does that make sense?
Well,
Like,
yeah. But one thing I've learned in my study, especially with Bishop Long, and Bishop Long's the foremost expert, now
yeah, yeah,
whatever.
yeah.
But one thing people don't realize is a demon has to be invited. They can be unintentionally invited. So like alcohol, drugs, abuse, depression. Those
They
are
feed they
ways
feed
that
on that negative. They
yeah,
feed on it.
yeah. That's ways they can be invited without you. Because I don't know too many people that say, "Hell yeah, possess me." I don't know, but those that negativity, it invites them in there. Abuse, I did a residential case, and I don't go into much details about residential case, but because it's about helping the people, so I don't talk about it very much. But that was the core issue with that case was the husband was abusive, and that was keeping the demon there. And the wife was like, "Well, I don't want to change that dynamic." I'm like, "Well, if your husband's not going to change the abuse and you're not going to help change it, there's nothing I can do."
Yeah.
You know, yeah,
Yeah, I did one kind of similar. Now it wasn't abusive, but the husband actually committed suicide. Right. I'm not going to go in details too far, but once that happened, and this was about 3 or 4 years ago, once that happened, the whole house had a dark shadow on it. Right, and it was mostly like the depression that was in the house was getting fed on, and every time they started to feel better, something had put this cloud over them to make them back down. And when I got there, I mean, we were scratched, we were hurt. I couldn't even. I had to bring someone else in because it was just way out of my class, and we found out there was a live water well on their property, like literally 2 feet from their house. I mean, there was a lot of conduits, a lot of things that were happening that it's like what. And then I found out the daughter, because after her dad had passed away, guess what she does? Has a seance with a Ouija board. Like those are things
yeah.
that you're just automatically inviting in that you have no idea. It's like, okay, let me just open this huge portal, this huge thing. Anybody can floodgate into this situation.
And
And
that
it,
close it.
yeah,
yeah,
yeah, and then they
yeah.
didn't close it. They're just like, okay, I'm scared. Let's stop playing this. Okay, bye. And then it's like, okay, why did I have 36 dreams in a row about something in my room? Well,
This play what not to do. All right,
yeah.
so we got two more. We got two more questions in this section, and then we're going to get to the dark shadows there. So, in your experience, how rare are truly negative or dangerous cases compared to what is portrayed on TV and online?
So I'm going to go back to that case. That case was probably the darkest one. Now, when I say it wasn't the darkest where I was harmed, because I was not, but um, the lady was harmed. Walking down the hallway, I felt like, when you walk down a hallway and something's like literally covering over you and it's coming down, you can feel the negative. It's part of the empath strategy. And we went into the room where he supposedly hurt himself. And then another issue was that house also was home to who they bought the house from was a person had died in that house. So we obviously felt like the two entities were clashing and it was wreaking havoc on the family, right? And so and that happens. So like what to feel that, and what you see on TV, it's a little bit different. It's more of a sad feeling. I feel like the things that I've noticed is that when they're having those dark, sad entities, is it demonic? I can't give you that answer because we truly don't know. But uh, it was a sad situation, right? And that goes back to the situation to where when I saw a creeper, it's like, is that demonic? Because it's not from this world. I don't know. It's something in the shadows. It's something that's dark. I've seen shadow figures before, but they say it was solid black, or you see the little children with the blacked out eyes. I've seen that before, and it's like, well, is that demonic? Because I don't know, or is there a demonic figure present and it has those kids still stuck there, and it's causing this over time situation to make it look like that. These are things that we don't have answers for, that we are all intrigued to have those answers, right? And
Right.
that's what keeps me going. But yeah,
Right.
that's just a situation.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I agree with that. So, what advice would you give investigators when they think something may be darker than usual?
You said the word investigate, right? You said investigators, and that's what we have to
Yeah. Yeah.
understand as investigators is we're not know-it-alls, right? Things happen. We go into situations and we don't know what we're dealing with, but there is a way to figure out what you're dealing with, and that's to truly investigate, truly open up yourself. Now, don't open up yourself to an attachment or anything that's going to oppress you, but open up yourself to understand that you're in a situation that no one has answers for. And it's just like any experiment, any hypothesis, anything, it just ends up being a theory, right? At the end of the day, we want to get the most best evidence ever, class A EVPs, full body apparitions, things like that. And at the end of the day, it's still a theory. Nothing is proven. You won't know what happens in the afterlife until you're gone. So to me, it's like investigate, 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 and try to get to that point. But at the end of the day, it's still just a theory.
Right. Right. That's important. The paranormal field is still pseudoscience. We're not even considered real science. We're pseudoscience. And I think and the word expert is a word that we don't use in this field. I have 34 years of investigation, 738 investigations, uh, a degree in parapsychology, a degree in demonology, 2 degrees in theology, a book, and I'm not an expert. I'm definitely not a know-it-all. I'm still learning. I'm still out there investigating. Trying to find that undisputable piece of evidence. So yeah, I think that's important for people to understand.
Right.
So let's talk about the dark shadows tour. Are you ready?
Yeah.
So
Yes, I am.
so the first question is, let's talk about the dark shadow tour. How did the collaboration come together?
So this was actually a year in making. Me and you did some work last year. And I told you, I think last year, hey, I'm gonna kind of branch off because I was with you, your team actually, last year, and I'm gonna branch off and start basically my own thing because this is something I've been doing, and I would like to still collaborate with you on this. And obviously, there's some of these events, I think some of these cases that you can't go on because you have prior obligations elsewhere. But one thing that I noticed is, collaboration wise, and just be completely frank, obviously besides the hey, I want to investigate with you or with the other teams that I have on the tour, is cost, right? Not everybody has. If we're doing 13 locations, this is what we have on this tour, in a 4 month span, you know, not every place is gonna, you got 600, 800, 1200 plus you got your travel costs, this and that. So when I say, hey, you know what, I respect this team, or hey, this team has been here, or whatever the case may be, hey, let's work on this together. This, or like, Emmaus Asylum, we know that's a big location. I have no problem with bringing it two other 2-man, 3-man crews, one to help with cost, two to help with understanding, what's there, what's going on, because and then three, I've never been there. You been to the Emmaus Asylum? No, so it's a new experience for us, right? And so we're gonna go together. We got another group coming in. I can't remember who it was, but we're gonna enjoy that experience. Like you said, this is what we do. This is our passion. We love this. So um, it's, it's like we go in and it just makes us feel really, really good about where we're at. And that is my birthday weekend. So we're gonna have some crazy challenges there. I think I'm gonna go to the set. I think it's called the Sets house. It's over to the left by the woods. I'm gonna try to go in there by myself for a couple hours. Single. I think they had like a little holding cell single. That's what the guy told me. I'm gonna go in there and handcuff myself or what. I don't know what I'm gonna do, but we're gonna do something crazy. Not for views, but just for a trigger, so we can try to get things to come in and understand the paranormal. So that the tours are gonna be amazing. We have a lot of cool things. I'm sure you have more questions about it, so I'll let you get back to that.
Yeah, yeah. I think it's important to do stuff like that for your birthday. Um, so for the people who don't know, last weekend the Glen House was my birthday investigation. But
Yes.
but last year for my birthday investigation, I went to a place that we're going to this year, and I went to the Monroe House. That's where I spent my birthday. So like you said, you went out there, you want to go out there in the woods for a couple hours. So for at midnight, when it actually became my birthday, I did a solo in the basement of the Monroe House.
Okay, so I know they changed it from the Demon House to the Mysterious Monroe House because of it seems like a lot of these places are trying to get away from the word demon because it's putting a negative situation connotation on the location. Does it have demons? We don't know. Is it an evil spirit? Maybe. The way I feel about it is if there's a true demon there, then why doesn't everybody have the same experience? I don't know. Like we both said, like did it skip us? Did it say, hey, I left the portal, came back? We don't know, but we will be at the Mysterious Monroe House in June. That's our second to last or third from last on this tour. It'll be my first time to go there, and I'm very, very intrigued. I mean, I've been watching a lot of videos on that place, and I think it's going to be an awesome night for sure.
It's a cool place, and I'm not going to go too much into it because I don't want to spoil it. But just when you walk in from like the living room and you open the door to go upstairs, the atmosphere just changes. Temperature
You can
drops,
feel
and
it.
it just gets
Yeah.
heavy. Yes. So okay.
Yeah.
So what excites you most about working along with the other teams on the tour?
Learning from them, right? You've been doing this for over 30 years. Anthony, who's on my team, has been doing this longer than I have as well. He's 50, but he looks 25, 35. I've only been doing this. Now, obviously, I've been into the paranormal since I was 16. I'll be 39 this year, but I've only been doing investigations, roughly the last 8 to 10 years. So learning from the guys who don't call ourselves experts, but do expert things, learning from people who have their own way of learning how to do things because I might have a way of doing it, you might have a way of doing it, and they both might work, but that's something that I would like to practice myself on. That's why I did tell you, like, as soon as I talk to people on the Facebook and I say, hey, what's your YouTube, I'm not subscribing to them to promote, obviously I am to promote them to get better, higher subscriptions, but I also want to understand how they also do these locations because a lot of these locations on this tour, we have paranormal buddies that are doing those same locations this year or did those locations last year or previously because at the same time there's a lot of these places who need us there, right? That's why they charge us, because this is what pays their bills, this is what pays for these things. Because let me tell you something, I guarantee nobody lives in the Monroe house, but they still have to pay for the Monroe house to be kept up, right? So that's why they charge, and that's the same thing for the bigger locations. They have to keep these things up and running. So um, I love the collaborations. For that matter, that doesn't mean we're going to collab on every single case, but or every single location. But for this tour, we do have collaborations pretty much for all of my set. I think except for one, and that was the one you can't go on. But actually, what? I think we have another team coming in. There's like a couple that's going to husband wife duo that's going to come in, and that's this upcoming Saturday. After obviously tomorrow got canceled. That was going to be an awesome place, but yeah, I know, right? I really wanted to go there, but we did get it rescheduled for March. so it's not too far away.
Yeah. So if I don't get snowed in, I'm still going out tomorrow.
Where are you gonna go?
I'm thinking about going to check out that church.
Okay, okay. I think you're gonna get snowed in, but have
I
fun
figured
with
I'm going.
that. I mean, you're in Kentucky, brother. I saw this thing on Facebook that said if you live here, you're okay, but if you live in this part, this pink part, you're dead. And it was right over here
Yeah.
where you
Well,
live.
they're calling for 8 to 12 inches where I'm at.
Well,
All right. So the next question is, what do you hope the what do you hope that your fellow investigators and the people that view your TikTok and your YouTube page, what do you hope they take away from the Dark Shadows chair?
realness, the understanding of that what we're doing is for realness, like doing, we're not putting any gimmicks in there. You're gonna see some raw footage on our stuff. You're not gonna get, hey, let me get this guy to edit a shadow. Not saying that people do that, I don't know, but you're gonna get realness. You're gonna get,
They
yeah,
do.
you're gonna get like you're gonna see the Glenn footage come out and you're gonna go, this is boring. Well, you know what, it happens. There's, you can do 12 hours there and you get a 30-minute realm of this, a bunch of craziness, and then the other 11 and a half hours of a bunch of boringness. But guess what? The experience is what I care about. The enjoyment to try to figure out what's going on, and then you might go to a location where you're there for 12 hours and you feel like you come out of there and you feel like you barely made it out alive. It's just but the realness is going to be there, right? People on TikTok or YouTube or wherever we decide to post these videos are going to see it. We did, I think we did about an hour or two of live on the TikTok, and we had, some views on there, and on the TikTok, we don't have a lot of, followers, like 1,600 or whatever, but we had some people on there, and they're, you know, uh, a lot of them got to experience what we're seeing because there was teams on there, right, that have never been to Glen House. So there's doing two things there. It's not only promoting us, but it's promoting the location that we are at. And that's what these locations got to understand. Like, I'm not going live because I want just Bluff City Paranormal or ET Paranormal, which is my own personal little thing, or myself to just blow up. I mean, yes, that'd be great, but at the same time, I want to keep these locations moving and going because the place, the experience, regardless if we didn't get a lot of experience or not this last time, like you've been there 5 times, you felt 5 different experiences. But when you walk in there, you feel that early 1900s atmosphere, and it makes you, it just, to me, as a history buff, as a history fiend, like that's just amazing,
Right.
and that was, you know, so that's what I get from that.
And I think you made the statement before. With me being at the gun house as much as I have, it's kind of like I'm part of the house now. So when I
Yep.
walk in, when you walk in with me, it's different than when you walk in with somebody else. It's like they know me now, and we didn't have any like huge experiences this time, but the time before we had all the interactions with Mr. Glenn or whoever it was that makes us ask more questions about maybe there was some abuse that we didn't know about. So like you said, there's always something to uncover, and and I like the fact that you said that we do this for the locations because especially like locations like the Good House. That's why it's so important to me. They only charge a donation, and the donation goes directly back into the house. Right now, they're trying to,
Nonprofit. A lot of these places
yeah,
are nonprofit, correct?
yeah. Right now, they're trying to fix the roof, and that's what it's about. It's keeping this alive for other people, So, yeah.
Yep.
All right.
Yeah.
So, after more than 2 decades in the field, what still keeps you searching for answers?
Because I don't have the answers, right? It's something like, it reminds me of school, or not just school, but I have this weird thing on me is that if I start something, I want to finish it. But I feel like this field, it's never going to be finished. Like, it's always something, like I said, you've gone to the Glen House 5 times and you have a different experience every single time, and a different question at the end of the night of what else could I have done, or what else could we have experienced, or what else could we have triggered or whatever. And you go, hey, I'm going to come back. It's just like, so it's something that, and it this all plays back to what 16-year-old me seeing my grandpa up there. Like, why did I see him? What message was he trying to give me? Was it residual because he just was lighting his pipe staring at me? I don't know. and it's something that I wanted to live the rest of my life trying to figure out. I have not seen him again, but I have had dreams about him. And they come and go. They don't happen. Shoot, there's been 3 years I didn't have a dream about him, but guess what? I had a dream about him about a week and a half ago. You know what I mean? Like, and it was just a typical dream that he was in. It wasn't nothing spectacular. So it's like, these are things that we have to become receptive to, have to become to accept. And I'm going to live the rest of my life doing this because this is a passion of mine.
So I tell people that I am going to keep doing this as long as I can carry a voice recorder in my hand. As long as I can still hold a flashlight and a voice recorder, I'm going to investigate. And I'm going to go off script here, but so this is a question that people ask me all the time. So I'm going to ask you, uh, what do you see the difference in the field now compared to when you started?
It's blown up. So when I first started in this, you know, I could throw a rock and barely hit anybody. Today I can throw a rock and there's 13,000 paranormal teams out there and 13,000 people trying to find the thing. So the market is there, right? And I keep preaching on market because you have two ways to go with the market. You can go the right way and be real with it and try to do the right thing, or you can do the thing that you talk about, and that's that paranormal culture type thing where you want to just go for views. So, but there's so much out there, right? There's teams out there like yourself who, congratulations, 3,000 followers, and out of those
Thank you.
3,000 followers, you probably have 2,000 teams that follow you. You see what I'm saying? Like, there's so much out there. And so that, 10, 15 years ago, you can relate to this. Shoot, 30 years ago, you didn't have that. You told somebody 30 years ago that you was a paranormal investigator. They looked at you like you were a crazy man. You know what I mean? And now when
I
you
was
tell,
told I was going to hell. I was told I was
yeah.
going to hell, and I was told the
And
devil.
now if you tell them, they might say, "Hey, you want to come over to my house and investigate? I got something crazy going on in the back room." Like,
Yeah,
it's just it's just one of those things that you just never know. Like, and so I think it's kind of, when I say it's blown up, that's what I mean by that. Like, there's so much more acceptance. There's so much more people trying to understand what we cannot explain, and that's what I feel about that. Because that's what paranormal is. The word. It's not just about ghosts. Paranormal is anything that's not normal, right? It's para, and so we talk about that from obviously I'm flying out here, but like you got the UFOs, you got the Bigfoots, you got all that kind of stuff, right? And it's not normal. It's abnormal. It's not something that's normally happening. So that intrigues me, and that's what I'm going to keep doing, until God takes me away. Is how I'm going to say it.
so yeah, so yeah, I mean, that's one of the biggest things is in my time too. It's the acceptance and how many teams. So when I wrote my book, "Don't Buy Generic Batteries," and it's probably not a demon, available the
Available on it.
25th. But
Available on the 26 or 20, yeah, 26
yeah,
on Amazon.
yeah. But when I started writing it, you know, I had to go back to that first investigation I ever did. 12-year-old me had no clue. The equipment that I had back then, I had one of the old library tape recorders.
Yeah.
I had a flashlight and I had a notebook and a pen. That's what I had. And now, I mean, you see my case. Now I got everything. Everything. So that's one thing that's changed.
Yeah,
The
you
other
only
thing,
use like you don't get to use it all. If your
yeah, I
night
only
doesn't
use like
last, it's
three
not enough.
things.
Yeah, yeah, me too. That's what I have like eight camcorders. I use one, and then it's like, well, I use like the smaller ones, the chest piece, or I put my DVR stuff up. But like I have like all these camcorders, just like, but I don't even need them. I don't, but it's something that we've accumulated over the years.
Right. And so that's changed. And like you said, 6-year-old me was told when my gift was first recognized that I was going to hell and I was a tool of the devil. Now I run into people and I get, oh, you mean like ghost hunters? Or like you said, I get like, hey, I got this going on in my house. You think you can come and check it out? So yeah, so that's a good change. So yeah.
Yeah, I get that too. Like, they're like, "Oh, you mean like such and such and such and such?" And I'm like, "No, kind of, but no. Like, it's what we do, but we don't. We're not in the same. We're in different classifications. I feel like, right?
Right.
I will say this: there are some people who've gotten famous over us that I do respect. I have no problem with the Wraith guys. I really like the Wraith guys. I really like the Ghost Lab guys. I really like those brothers. That's just and see, my view is different from your view, right? Like, who I like is different from who you like. Um, the mainstream media has done a lot of things. Like, we hear stories where people are kind of rude when you go to paracons, or people are this and that, and they just do this and that. But at the end of the day, I read this long article from the Ghost Lab guys, and it's like, I feel like they do that, because he was talking about how, I think, the Kilgore brothers, right? That's their names, right? I think that's their names. They put themselves out there. They're going to all the stuff. They were talking to people, and over time they felt like they were washed out. They were washed down, and so they did come back and say, hey, people like the Zach Bagans of the world, where they don't really go to paracons, and if he does, he's there for 5 minutes and he leaves. And see, people like me and you, the normal Joes, might say, hey, that's a little disrespectful, but at the end of the day, there's a reason why he's been doing it now for 25 years and he's still super successful, because he didn't put himself out there. So I see both sides of it. I will say that as a person who's probably never going to be at that level ever, I'm always going to give myself out there to people, talk to people. But at the end of the day, too, is I'm always going to understand different aspects. I'm not going to judge anyone. I'm not going to say, hey, this is how I feel. I'm going to be respectful to, like I said, the people that are up here, the people under, like I said, we were talking about the job situation. I treat everybody the same respect, if that makes sense.
So I consider myself a nobody. I mean, I realize in the grand scheme of stuff,
I
I'm
think
not.
you're somebody. I think you're somebody.
Well, and I understand I am. I mean, that's actually been made obvious to me over the last year. Doing these conventions I've been doing. And but to me, I have no ego. I guess that's the best way to see it. I have no ego. Even with my book coming out, even with my agent. They're scrolling along the bottom of the screen. That's my agent. If you want me to come talk to your thing, I'm never going to be that guy that charges $1,500 and room and board and travel. If I'm traveling, I'm doing an event in Maine this year, right? So for that event, yes, I have to have 250. Why? Because I'm traveling. You know what I'm saying? But when I'm doing an event local, like in Tennessee or Kentucky, just give me a booth so I can sell my books and I'm good. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
That's
Yeah.
me. That's me. Then we have these other people that. So I was at Smoky Mountain Terror. That's a big deal. I
Yeah.
was there. I was there getting all kinds of respect and love and networking or whatever you want to call it. I call it just talking to people instead of being in my booth like I should have been. But whatever you want to call it. But
You're
so we had
fellowshipping. That's what we call it.
fellowship. There you go.
Yeah.
So we had this team there, and I'm not even going to mention them, but they're one of these big YouTube teams, and paranormal something. That's what I'm going to give you. Where they were selling their picture, not even an autograph picture. It was just a picture, just an 8x10 picture for $60.
Yeah.
I have a problem with that. Now, if they can get it, that's okay. But to me, that's hurting the field.
Listen, I, to each is their own, right? I went to, and this is something out left field. We went to see one of my favorite comedians, right? His name's Joe Coy. We went to see him when he came to Memphis. Okay, he's selling his, now Joe Coy. I guarantee you is a lot more famous than that team you just said, right? And he was selling his autographed picture for $10. I'll do that all day of the week, and I still have it. I don't know where it's at, but I still have it. And actually, I bought two, one for me and one for her. $10. Now I'm not knocking $60. Maybe they have their own problems or their own money situations, but I won't partake in buying in that. Not because I don't support the paranormal field. It's because I'd rather support people who are, you know, uh, trying to better the field, not better themselves. Does that make sense? Like, you might
Yeah.
say, hey, Eric, here, buy this book on Amazon for $10. It's your book, or what? I don't know what the cost is. I don't quote me
twelve
on
dollars.
twelve
$12.
dollars. Guess what? I'm going to pay the $12. But if you said, "Hey, Eric, it's $65," I'm going to tell you, "Hey, bro, my girl's got a Kindle. She's going to download that. I'm going to read it." Like, because $65, I don't know. That's a little bit out of my price range. It just is what it is. Now if you become, because even the best sellers out there, right? That's what I mean by that. Like, the people in the writing world, if you go buy one of their books they put out, you're going to spend 12 to $20, and that's it. You're not going to go spend $60. And guess what? You I think what's her name? Selena, who just posted her book called it's the vampire book. Starts with an S. Uh, man, I don't want to. I feel bad now because I got my girl reads daily, and I got her to read the book, right? And you can go to her stuff; she'll sign it. But that book was only like 12.95, right? It wasn't a lot, but she's become a best author seller. Do you know what I'm talking about? Selena, she is on those shows. She's a medium, all that
Yeah,
kind of stuff, and
yeah,
she's
yeah,
become
yeah,
famous on the TikToks and all that stuff.
yeah, yeah. I
I want to
understand. Yeah,
say um, gonna bug me, man, because I don't want to disrespect her. Um, mm, the Selena Spooky is her name. Oh, Hollow Book Tour. Yeah, the book's called Hollow. Sorry about that. I didn't want to disrespect her.
yeah.
And,
That's
you
that's
never
okay.
know.
And that's the thing. Even with this team, even though I think they was disrespectful and all that stuff, but everything comes around. So I will say that Smoky Mountain Terror said that they would never be back at their event. So that shows you something. But even with them being like that, they did treat me with professional courtesy or whatever you want to call it. So I walked over there. You know me, I'm me. So I walk over there and I call them out over the price of that picture. And they look at me and they're like, "That's fair." But then I called them out because they just did a video with the Spice Girls on the paranormal field, and I was like, so I called them out on that too. And so they were nice to me. They took pictures with me. Only reason I even talked to them is because uh, Dylan, Jill's son, was
Yeah.
a big fan of theirs. So I was like getting stuff for him, But they did treat me with respect, so I will give them that. But to me, that maybe makes it even worse because even that shows that they can be real investigators, but they're taking advantage of the public. You know what I'm saying? But
Right.
but anyway,
Um,
that's enough about that. Uh, so uh,
right. Right.
so for someone starting out, what's the one piece of advice you'd want them to hear?
Be real to yourself, and when you do an investigation, um, get with somebody that's been there. Get with somebody that's there because a lot of times I see a lot of these guys that will watch uh the TV stuff and try to duplicate that. You're not going to get the same experiences. You're going to go down a road that you probably going to end up failing in. So get the advice, understand what you're dealing with before you deal with it. And that because it's always going to be that guy that goes out there that says, "Hey, I see people going solo. I'm gonna go solo," and they go into a location and they do encounter a demon. Here's two things that's happening right there, right? One, you're alone, you're solo. Two, you're new to the field and you don't know what to expect. So in my mind, it's like you have to be very careful. So my advice to people that are new is get you like a mentor, get you somebody that you can ask questions to, understand the field a little better before you just dive right in. Now, that's not knocking the people who went solo. That's not knocking the people who started off by themselves and do it because we all have to start somewhere. All I'm saying is just be very careful and be mindful of the things that you're getting yourself into.
I think that's good advice. So when I started, I was pretty much by myself and had no clue what I was doing. Looking back 30 plus years later, I probably did more harm than good back then. So I think that's excellent advice. And for and even go to a public event or a novice event, whatever you want to call it. Those are good for beginners.
Yeah, 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 yeah. I
I
agree to that too.
I don't do them, but they're good for beginners. I don't do them because to me it corrupts my evidence. You know what I'm saying? But for
Right,
somebody,
right. Well, I think it depends on the location too. Like, if I'm in a location like in Indiana State that's fairly big and there's 25 people there, and I'm by myself, I'm doing my own investigation. Now I'm gonna go with the tour, but then I'm gonna venture off into my own thing. Now, listen, you're not gonna get what you feel like you can get if you're there with your small group, right? But at the same time, two things, right? You're gonna get to go a little bit cheaper than you would have went if you had your small group, and then two, you're going to get your own personal experience. So that's where you can say, hey, there's pros and there's cons. But I'm with you on that. I typically don't want to do public events. Um, that does not knock the people who are putting those up. Like the Wraith guys who put theirs up. They allow an avenue for people who can't afford typical type stuff that will go and do those with them. So so be it. but I'm still strictly going to do, hey, my private events. I mean, if I can't go to this event because I can't afford it, guess what? I'm going to save up and I'm going to go there next year. Just be mindful of that. Not everything's going to happen. I'm learning that too by booking this tour. I was started booking like back to back to back weeks, and then I started talking to my 8 month old girlfriend, and she's looking at me like, the hell you are. Excuse my language. Like, so I had to, we had to move some dates around, and do it that way where we say, hey, let's just do like around 2 a month, maybe three if it's doable, and so we made it work, and within a 4 month span we were able to get the 13 dates in there.
And you have a baby coming too, so that's important.
Yeah, that was another thing. So there's no speaking of the Dark Shadows tour, there's no investigation for us in February. The baby is um going to be here. They says February 21st, but we think it's going to be here around the 4th through the 10th. Um, I'm all about it. I'm happy, and I would like for it to be a lot sooner. That way, I can go back to my investigations on March 7th. But she's over in the kitchen. I keep looking to see if she's looking at me.
Tell us it on. So
Yeah,
so
hint that hi.
Anthony said that he likes to run towards whatever makes the knock or move something. Too many of the people on YouTube run away as soon as something happens.
I'm pushing you right towards it, Anthony. Like as soon as it happens, brother, I'm like, hey. Like I will say this. That's kind of what, and I'm gonna name drop here. That's what Zach Bagans does to Aaron. He's like, hey, Aaron, go in there and lock yourself in
That's,
there.
that's what I was going to say. That's what we're going to do to Anthony. Anthony,
Yeah,
go. You go do the demon by yourself.
yeah,
Russell
yeah.
Russell says hi,
Hey, Russell.
and Anthony says he's down.
Yeah. Hey, and I have no problem doing it too, but at the same time, Anthony's gonna be the guy. No, I'm just kidding. Hey, Anthony,
So
there's a rock that was thrown at me. Go in there for 30 minutes and find out who threw it.
nothing but love, Anthony. Nothing but okay. So
Yeah.
here's the final question. Ready? This is an easy question. So tell everybody where they can follow Bluff City Paranormal and keep up to date with everything you got going on.
So it's very easy. Instagram is bluff_city_paranormal. Same thing with TikTok. Our YouTube channel, which is fairly new, so you're not going to see anything, is going to also be at Bluff City Paranormal. Facebook, Bluff City Paranormal. It's real simple. And that's it.
And if you go to Ken 10's Ken 10's YouTube page, you'll see a video where Buff City is tagged.
Thank you. Thank you. I have 9 subscribers, I think, as of yesterday with no videos. So I got to get onto that. I mean, even if it's for 5-minute videos, I have a whole bunch of literally, I have tons of raw footage from last week.
So I probably have 18 videos on my page, and like 7 of them are what I call short videos. So shorts, so like
shorts,
5.
yeah,
Yeah,
B-roll,
yeah,
shorts,
yeah,
everything.
yeah,
And just so
yeah.
you guys know, I am learning. I just learned the CapCuts. My son tells me I need to get Adobe Premiere, but I don't even know how to do CapCut, let alone that. So I'm learning. Uh, Chelsea's actually going to start doing it this weekend. We thought maybe if we were snowed in for the whole weekend, we were going to do a lot of uploading and getting things going. So I plan on hopefully by the end of this weekend, maybe Sunday, to have my version of the Glen House that we caught. Because if you remember, me and you didn't. You got a video up, but me and you didn't do a lot of stuff together. So me,
No,
Anthony, and Chelsea did a lot together.
yeah, I didn't get to investigate with you this, except for maybe that a little
The
bit.
XLS, the XLS was the only part I saw on your video. We had some XLS footage where the
Yeah,
black orbs are coming through, and we had a
yeah,
couple a couple little stick figures on there, but there really wasn't much that we got to do. I think we did a small SS method where Jonathan was doing his
yeah,
stuff, but that's all we got. I think it was mainly 30 minutes in the 7 and
yeah,
8 hour
yeah.
situation. So yeah, so I have a different perspective of what I got than what you got.
And I hate that because I love investigating with you. I mean,
Right.
yeah, but we'll make up for that next event, so that'll be all right.
Yep.
So
So
yeah,
let's talk about that real fast, if you don't mind. I know we got to go soon, but
yeah.
so next Saturday we'll be at the you won't be there. So let's talk about the one you'll be at. How about that?
All right.
So yeah, you won't be there. So I will say I'll just bring it up. Next Saturday we're at the Old Pickens County Jail in Jasper, Georgia. I've never been there. So that will be great to do that with. Trying to see here the Old Pickens. I don't know anything about it, but I'm going to figure it out. I think the next one I have with you is going to be March 7th. Um, nope, March 21st. Ugh, it's going to be a while. Can't. March 21st is the next one because we know what the March 7th we do have one, but remember there's a situation where you and I
Yeah,
won't
yeah.
be at that one. But the March 21st one is going to be the makeup day for this weekend at the Night House on March 21st. Um, and
Yeah,
then I
yeah,
go ahead.
yeah. But after that, we kind of roll with them.
Yeah, it's a roll. It's Scott County Jail, South Pittsburgh Hospital, the Gaines House, the Mace Asylum, the Sirius Monroe House, the Spirits of Marco, the Village of Rugby, the Euro Shrine. You know, we have they start stacking, stacking,
Right,
stacking.
right. Yeah,
And then we have the Hinsdale House that's at the end of the year, which is not part of the tour.
yeah,
Yeah, and I want to do one. I know that your Fridays are not kind of crazy, but I've been talking to Anthony. I've been like just like every single day bugging him about it, but somewhere in September, I want to do the Sally House, and what I want to do is it might be October, but I want to do a Friday night at the McIntyre Village. It's like so. I don't know what it is about that city in I think it's Atchison. There's like 5 haunted places there, and since I'm traveling 7-8 hours, I want to do a Friday and a Saturday. That way, I make it a weekend. And so I've been trying to figure out what I'm going to do there that weekend and what day it is. I know you said you're kind of open at the end of the year to do like a Friday Saturday deal. So and then the Hinsdale House, I also want to do what is it, Wildwood or whatever that. I sent you the information on that. There's another basically asylum type, sanatorium area up there. I want to do that on that Friday and Saturday. Um, these are things that are coming up that are great. And I will say this: I know it's early in the year. Sorry, the dog's barking. I know it's early in the year, but next year I want to do kind of like a prison tour, if that makes sense, where we do like 6 to 8 spots in a row, consecutive. It can be a county jail, but prisons, right? So the Bushy Mountains, the uh,
Missouri.
Missouri State Penitentiary, a bunch of the counties, and I'll probably throw in some sanitariums in there because they're kind of, even though they're not prisons, they kind of have a lot of the same story. Find places where they have like the hole or the shoe or whatever So that's what's going on. Man, I do want to say one thing. I want to say thank you for letting me be on your podcast. I've had a great time with you. It's been an hour and 26 minutes. It's feel like it's been 15 minutes. It's kind of flown by. It's been real smooth, and I just want to say thank you for allowing us. And I know Anthony isn't actually on here, but he's actually here, and he's basically my partner on Bluff City, so paranormal. So we're both grateful, and I just want to say thank you for allowing Bluff City to be here.
Well, and next time I have you on, we'll get Anthony on camera too. We'll have you both on.
Yeah, he's got some crazy experience on the West Coast. Everywhere he's been, I can only imagine, like, for being in Virginia City, Nevada, like one of the most haunted cities there is. He's been out there. He has a crazy amount of stories, and so I just can't wait to have that conversation with
Yeah,
him. I mean, I think we talk about it all the time, and he can talk about those things for hours, and I can just listen. It's just amazing. Yep.
yeah. All right. Thank you for being on, and we'll investigate and watch together, and keep me updated on the baby and stuff, and
I sure will.
because so for the people who are wondering, even though Eric and Bluff City are taking off February for the baby, I'm still investigating. I'm doing. Hopefully, knock on wood, I'm doing a location in Paducah. I'm working on doing the 1850 Washington Hotel there in Paducah, and then I'm doing the Dr. Warden House in Tennessee. So I'm still investigating. So, and then we'll join back together in March. So thank you for being on, and we will talk soon.
All right. Thank you, guys.